Welcome to Alchemy of Awakening podcast here on Awakening Airwaves. My name is Holly Hawkins, and I'm so pleased once again to be here with you. This is my monthly episode here on Awakening Airwaves, where we talk about all things about our highest potential, our awakening consciousness, and really focused on the positive aspect of where we're going and how to actually make the energetic changes to embody a life that we dream of in this here and now. So once again, I'm just so happy to be here with you. And today I sort of have a mashup, if you will, of things that I want to talk about. And the first thing I want to talk about starts with a question. And that question is, what inspires you? Now, you could pause and listen and think and ponder, like, what inspires me, or just keep listening along. At some point, I would encourage you to just take a moment to think about that, because things are going to inspire you in lots of different ways in different areas of your life. Something that might, for example, inspire you within your family or within your personal relationships, or inspire you within things in the world. Or you could be inspired by things that are about your business if you have your own, or your work life. So inspiration can come in so many different ways. But I believe it's important that we look for, seek out, and find the things that inspire us. And part of the reason I feel that is because being inspired from an energetic, universal point of view is very expansive. It's a way that we can expand our energetic potential through the energy of inspiration. We hear about how gratitude is a very positive energy to embody, to live a better life, create changes in the way we want. We've heard a lot about gratitude over the years. And I believe, and gratitude, of course, is amazing. And it is a very transformational frequency. That's how I look at all these things. Gratitude is something that you can do as an act, but it really is a vibrational field of gratitude. And that's what helps us feel better. We're bringing in an energetic vibrational field that we name as gratitude. And similar to that is inspiration, or what inspires us. So I just want to share a little personal story about something that's been very inspirational to me in the last months. And maybe you found it inspirational to you. And it was the walk for peace with the Buddhist monks. They left Texas and walked all the way to Washington, D.C. There was a lot of coverage over it. They had their dog with them, who actually originally came to them when they were walking through India. And the dog itself, named Aloka, was inspirational in and of itself. But I found myself so incredibly inspired, moved, uplifted, brought to tears all the time as I followed their journey. I didn't connect with it deeply in the very beginning part of their journey, but it wasn't long into it that I found out more about it. I followed it mostly on social media, and wanted to see where they were, what they were doing. And the leader of the Walk for Peace, I'm not going to try to say his name because I know I won't do it any justice. Everywhere he went, he had beautiful messages, just very inspiring, very simple messages. And they weren't out to be celebrities. They weren't out to gain a lot of notoriety. But what was so moving is that, and inspiring, was that their walk was their solitary walk, paying attention to the energy of peace as they walked, paying attention to their breath as in terms of mindfulness. But what started happening is the potency of their mission, of this line of monks walking a long journey, thousands of miles from Texas to Washington, D.C., became inspirational for hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people around the world. And people lined up and came just to catch a glimpse of them along their path. And I was so inspired by their journey, their messages, their simplicity. They weren't out trying to have a social media following, although I'm sure they grew in that way. But I was so inspired. And actually, one of the things that the leader of this walk said to do every day is to wake up every day and with a hand on your heart and writing it out a few times and saying it to yourself, today is going to be my peaceful day. And I've been practicing that regularly. I actually do it when I fall asleep as well as when I wake up in the morning. And I have literally noticed a tangible difference. So that inspiration that I connected with has inspired. I've been inspired to make changes in myself and my own life. And I've literally seen a tangible difference in it. I feel like I'm sleeping better since I started that practice. I noticed that I've felt a lot less stressed and the days are going by a lot more easily. And it has taken very little conscious struggle or effort. I just intend to say, and with my hand on my heart, start my day by saying today is going to be my peaceful day. And I just repeat that several times and I breathe. And I have been so inspired by that. I can feel the tangible difference with that. And I feel like I'm living in a better space because of it. And for me, my inspiration came from watching, following, listening to the messages of these very humble monks walking along the road, sometimes intentionally barefoot until they got to the really snowy part of the journey. But it was so inspirational that it feels like my life has been changed. Inspiration and us choosing to look for it and connect with it isn't about big bells and whistles. It's about making little inner changes that are expanding us into the unified field, expanding us into a more multidimensional consciousness where we can begin to receive and experience more of what we desire. So again, I started out talking about this idea of what is inspiring you. So I'm encouraging you now, what inspires you and how can you connect with it regularly? How can you open up to a place where that inspiration is creating a positive change, a difference in the way you approach yourself, your life, the world, and that it's inspiring you yourself to create changes in your own life that you'd like to see. So that's my first little tidbit of this. I'm going to just it's a eclectic connection of thoughts that have been rolling around for me. So that was the first one. The second one is this. I want to talk about the idea of self-love. And I've talked a lot about this at other times before, but self-love is very important. I've seen in my 20 years of being in practice, I've seen a lot of what I call seasons where certain clients and students come and they're all kind of working on similar themes, I would say. And a very strong theme that I've seen in my clients and my students, as well as my own theme in the last maybe 3 or 4 years, is us really working consciously, intentionally, opening up new pathways for self-love. And what comes with that, though, is this energy of confusion very often. We get confused about self-love because how do we love ourselves exactly the way we are right now? Because without it sounding overly cheeky, listen, if we could do it and if it was easy, we would have already loved ourselves, wouldn't we? We wouldn't be wondering about it. And so this idea of self-love, while we might like the aspirational potential of that, it's very hard to know what to do. It's very hard to like, how do I go from this place where I am constantly looking at what's wrong with me, where I might constantly feel like I need to heal more. I might constantly be feeling like I'm not doing things well enough for whatever my goals and desires are. So how do I connect with self-love in a space where I am being, I'm going to say, perfectly imperfect? So I want to share about this because we don't have to be challenged and not feel good about ourselves one day and then be in love with ourselves the next. We want to let ourselves off the hook for that. That's the first thing. And allow, like so many things, to be a journey. And you actually don't need to reach some pinnacle of perfection and say, oh, I've arrived and now I'm in this perfect state of self-love. Everything's going to be a journey. It's always going to be an evolution. There's never going to be an end point to it. So let's let that journey be the real goal of what is this journey showing and teaching me. So one of the things I've found to be one of the early adopting ways of connecting with self-love is starting to have a sense of positive self-regard. Now, that might sound a little formal, positive self-regard, but what I'd encourage you to do is think about how often you're taking the time, whether it's in the middle of your day, the beginning of the day, the end of the day, to really say, I did my best on that one. Even if it wasn't perfect, even if already you know you could and would and want to do it differently, can you give yourself that sense of positive regard for yourself? Even, as I just said a moment ago, in your perfectly imperfect state. It's okay. You can give yourself a little permission slip to feel okay with yourself if you're in a place that feels like it's the messy middle. Because as humans, we have a lot of times in our life that feel like the messy middle. And in those times when we feel like we're in the messy middle, sometimes we're not letting ourselves feel good about ourselves. See how we keep getting up and trying every day. Notice what we are doing instead of what we aren't doing. So part of positive self-regard, feeling good about yourself, is being able to recognize what you are doing, how you're doing it, how you're showing up, how maybe today was 1%, 5% better than yesterday. What are you noticing that you can anchor in and say, in these micro moments, I recognize who I am, what I'm doing, and how I'm truly doing the best I can. So let's take an example that I hear about from clients all the time. Maybe they want to be on more of a physical healing journey and they want to eat better food and they want to drink more water and they usually want to move their body more. That's kind of a common human thing for all of us, isn't it? Especially in the Western world. So you create some goals and you have some desires, and maybe you say, I don't eat any vegetables, and so I want to start eating some vegetables. I want to eat vegetables every day. And maybe for several days in a row, you are. When you're doing it right, even if it's you thinking to yourself, I could have done more. I ate vegetables, but I didn't eat any greens. Can you slow down and say, I used to not eat any at all, and today I ate some carrots? That's positive self-regard. Positive self-regard comes in micro moments, not everything being perfect. Again, here's your permission slip to start feeling good about yourself right here, right now, for the little tiny things, because that means we're looking for what's right about us. And when we start looking for what's right about us, that's where positive self-regard comes in. I did something better today than I did before, or maybe it was better than a month ago, or maybe today wasn't as good, but I measured the amount of water I drank, even if I didn't reach my goal. Maybe I never drank any water before, and today I had 2 glasses. I know I might want to have 8, but I still did 2. So find ways to notice what's right about you. So that kind of goes hand in hand with the idea of positive self-regard. What is right about you instead of what is wrong with you? Okay? Because there is more that's right about you than wrong with you. And if you need to, if you really want to make it a practice, open up a journal, maybe even start a journal, or have a dedicated page where you can spend a few minutes every day, just like you might with a gratitude journal. But literally, it can be your what's right about me page. And if you keep adding to it, it doesn't need to be a new page every day. You just start with whatever comes up in mind, maybe 1 or 2 or 3 or 5 things. And the next day you can say, what's right about me? It's okay to repeat some of the things you've said before, but maybe you're going to notice something different. Add to your list and keep adding to your list. And what's also fun is to go back and read it to yourself. Read all of it to yourself. What if you got 7 days into it and you've got 25 things on your list? Read it to yourself in your voice out loud. What's right about me is that I made my bed today. What's right about me is that I had breakfast before I ran out of the house today. What's right about me is I got to work on time today. What's right about me is I did a little bit of stretching. I moved my body a little bit that way today. What's right about me is I reached out to a friend who I knew who was struggling a bit. So when you read it out loud and say what's right about me and then talk about each one of your items, you're reinforcing what's right about you. And that's how you grow positive self-regard. That's how you grow that sense of, I'm all right. I'm doing a great job. This is how we grow self-love. Again, I like very small steps to create big change. When we want to create big change in an instant, we're not ready. But the reason we don't hang on to that the same way is because we're not in vibrational alignment to it. If we give ourselves permission for these little micro changes along the way, it becomes sustainable, it becomes steady. And anything that becomes sustainable and steady is allowing us to anchor a brand new vibration into our field. And that's how we see that change is permanent, or that we can say, I used to be this way and now I'm this way. And it feels solid. I feel like it's not transitory. I feel like I've really locked this in and it's not going to change. This is going to be a permanent part of who I am now. So this idea of self-love also can reflect back to the first thing that I talked about with regard to inspiration. How do you inspire yourself? And I know that's a question we wouldn't normally ask ourselves, is it? But I'm going to just invite you to open up to what would that be like? How do you inspire yourself? How do you even notice that? But when you start looking for what it is that you want, you're going to have a greater likelihood of discovering it, which brings me to the third piece that I want to talk about today. And I'm sure you've all heard this before. And there's a very often quoted Bible quote, and I'm going to paraphrase here, so forgive me if I'm wrong here. But just basically, ask and it's given, or seek and ye shall find. So the bigger message in there is that what we look for, we find. So when we talk about what inspires you, when we talk about that positive self-regard, we're really looking for positive things, aren't we? Again, I know I've already said this, but we're looking for what's right about us instead of what's wrong. Now, you've probably heard that our brain is literally wired with a negative bias. Okay, so if we find ourselves being little negative Nellies or not as positive as we would like, let's cut ourselves some slack, because that's how we're biologically wired. It's actually a survival mechanism. So if we know our mind is wired towards looking at the negative and we notice it, we don't need to make ourselves wrong, but we can orient ourselves to what's positive and what's right about us. And when we start noticing and choosing to notice what's right about us, that energy grows. Because where we put our attention, that's like energetic fertilizer, right? Just like if you fertilize your plants in the garden or in your home, they're going to grow better than things that don't have fertilizer. Why? They're getting more nutrients. They're getting more energy. They're getting more of what they need, and it will grow. So when we are putting our attention to anything, that is what is going to grow. So when we look at what are we putting our attention to on a regular basis, is that what we want to grow? Are we looking at what's wrong with ourselves, what's wrong with the world, what's wrong with them? And if they changed, then the world would be better. If they changed, I'd be able to be happier. If they changed, ... So is that what we want to have grow, to find what is wrong? Or spend a bit of time and say, what is the experience I'd like to have? If you say, I'd like to experience more love and harmony and peace, or success, or kindness. I mean, it could be anything. Look for it. Look for it in your own life. Where are the examples of kindness? It could be as simple as watching somebody help somebody, in the grocery store parking lot, watching somebody help somebody put groceries in their car. Notice what's right. Notice what's working. Think about it literally as, this is what I want to fertilize. I want to see a world where people are positive, kind, supportive, loving, healthy, happy, relaxed. So I'm going to look for evidence of that. Seek and ye shall find. Because those examples, those experiences in your life and in the world around you are there. The question is, are you looking for them, or are you looking at the things that are wrong and problematic, whether it's for just in your own self, your own life, whether it's in your family or your work experience, or in the world at large? What are you paying attention to? And just take that moment to say, is that where I want to fertilize? Is that where I want to put my life energy and my nutrients to have that grow? Because we live in a field of duality and polarity, and we know our mind has a negative balance. So there are always going to be things that we would say are more negative, that are harder, that are more challenging. They're not fun. They're not interesting. They're not exciting. Those will always be there in a field of polarity. But sitting in that same field still exists the energy and the experience of all that we desire. So what is it, using a question that I've asked before here from the beautiful being who I've channeled for years, Ishtara, what would you like a bigger experience of? Ponder that, consider that. What would I like a bigger experience of? And then don't expect the world to show it to you. Expect to discover it. Excuse me. Expect to discover it for yourself in your own life. And notice that as you pay attention to that, you'll see more of it. You'll seek it out more because it'll feel good to you. And then you're becoming more and more of a vibrational match for it. So because we live in this magnetic universe, you'll start having more experiences that are aligned to that. Why? Because you've put your energy towards something, it's growing, And how did that happen? Because you've chosen to. Not because the world has changed to meet your needs. You've changed to meet your own needs by seeking what it is that you would like to have a bigger experience of. So I'd love to hear how you feel about these 3 different topics that I brought up today. Thanks so much for being here with me. And I would love it if you feel like this would inspire anyone else to share this, please. And like the Awakening Airwaves podcast. And we're here to support one another. We are all in a field of unity and growing into our highest potential. It's a joy for me to be here and share with you. If you have any topics you'd like to hear more about or that you're curious about, please pop it in the chat and I will put it on my list of things to share with all of you. So much love, many blessings to each and every one of you, knowing that beyond a shadow of a doubt, you're a great being of light. And all that you desire is available in the field of infinite possibilities. Love you all. Bye-bye.